We now take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here is Reverend Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're certainly never good night and never ever goodbye. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles. And the title of this offering, or the name of this offering, this presentation which you are now viewing or watching, is entitled It's Time. And what does it mean time for? Why, it's always time for justice, and especially social justice, which in our case must always involve environmental, which is the social structure, including the government, and that which is outside of the government, and government, let me do that, and it must always involve the economic factor, because this is a capitalistic system that we live in, and therefore there must always be room and discussion and a distribution of reparations. And you say you don't want to give reparations from slavery? You need to give reparations from the GI Bill, reparations from the FHA, the years of redlining that occurred here, and the years in which we were denied access, 20 years from 1935 to 1954, in which we were denied access to the Social Security network. But of course, of those three, I think the housing, it has been the most impactful, because whereas we gave the one segment of the society, the suburbs, and access to the suburbs and the financing to be in the suburbs, the other community was not so favored and was pushed and shoved and forced and coerced into places that they call slums or projects or ghettos or Nicholson Gardens and Pueblo del Rios and Hawaiian Gardens and Jordan Downs and all those type of places that predominantly black people such as myself were forced to inhabit, and had to really force our way out to reach the higher goals that we have attained to now. And with all of that attainment, we still have not, as it were, reached the promised land. And so yes, reparations are long overdue, and with the current economic disparities that we are experiencing all around this country and all around the world, the glee with which the 1% high-five themselves and give themselves thanks and credit for manipulating the system fraudulently when they did not do it legally, and even when it was legally on the books, it was still morally wrong. But yet the 400 richest families in this country own more wealth than the 99% of the rest of the people in this country. And that surely has to be equalized. There must be not only a racial equity, there must always be economic equity. Of course, if it never reaches the point of economic equity, it must certainly close this wide chasm, this wide, and somebody's got to fill up this abyss, this economic abyss in which most of our people find themselves pushed into, to the point where the establishment, the status quo, even here in the city of Los Angeles, is legislating, is in process rather of pushing through bills in the state legislature that will further criminalize the homeless for being homeless, if that makes sense. So much so that they don't even want you to, if you're homeless, you can't stand, you can't sit, you can't stop, and God help you if you lay down on a sidewalk. The law is against you. It criminalizes poverty, but yet the 1% have done everything that in their power to redistribute the wealth from the bottom to the top, so that now that the people who have lost the ability to earn a living, either through the loss of a job, loss of a business, loss of a home, loss of their family, and the like, are now being forced to lose their identity, so that the 1% will be at the same time the greatest philanthropists, but at the same time they will be the greatest materialists in the sense that they are depriving the people of their wealth, depriving of their ability to earn a living, depriving them of their ability to save or to accumulate wealth, even when they're working, because the salaries that they pay on these jobs don't really give or offer or lend themselves that much to allow a person to put aside money into a savings account that can accumulate sizable or substantial or even sufficient wealth for a rainy day. Personal note, I have an old Maytag washer, been had in the house since 1971, and it was there when we bought the house from the people, and they were kind enough to give me and my wife that dryer and that washer. That old washer's still going. It's an old Maytag, and last night I couldn't get it going. Amen. And I was thinking about that big expense to go down there and buy another washer. But fortunately, I found the right control and pushed it, and the thing started working again. So old Maytag, kind of twist the knob around and pull it out to get the water started. Amen. But even on a little thing like that, it creates a hazard and a worry and an apprehension and an expense that you did not think that you would have to be worried with. That's an aside. The main point is that the homeless and the people who are in poverty are being pushed to their limits and have been pushed to their limits. And in some cities like Santa Monica, they have passed legislation and ordinances and policies where it's a crime for you to feed the poor. Can you imagine that? It's a crime for you to feed the homeless for free. That's how craven and how seared with a hot iron the conscience of our city fathers and mothers and chambers of commerce and city councils and city law enforcement agencies have become. So we are at the point in the Bible where it says the love of many has waxed cold. And if you remember the bicentennial address that the late Justice Thurgood Marshall gave in 1987, he highlighted the fact that one of the things that was wrong with the original Constitution, that where it talked about liberty and justice for all, it was denying both liberty and justice to the Negro at the same time. So the cognitive dissonance that is extant in this nation and in this country, as the demoniac said to Jesus, is legion. Amen. And I fear that this country has no conscience, and that's a terrible thing to say about your homeland, the land that have birthed you. And so let us hold out hope that this country may recover its steps and may come back from this abyss of merely profit taking, and we return to the moral high ground where people matter and not just profits. No more profits over people, as the modern slogan goes. And as I grow older, I see how we as senior citizens, which I am now one, I hit 74, will be 75 in November, how we are more and more marginalized. Oh yeah, we get the how you doing and a quick smile, but the policies of this state, and this county, and this city, and indeed of the entire country are anti-elderly. So when you get old, you're going to be in a big problem in this country, because everything you did to the old folks when you were young is going to come back on you when you get old. I would like to call your attention to the scripture for our rest of our discussion in the book of Deuteronomy. I'm using this because no less a personality than the journalist Ta-Nehisi Coates used it in attempting to define and to describe why he supported reparations from slavery, and as I have already articulated, reparations from Jim Crow and segregation as well. And if you cannot do the one, you are going to be duty bound to do the other. Larry Elder's support of paying reparations to the former slave holders notwithstanding. In Deuteronomy chapter 15 and verse 12 it says, "And if thy brother an Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman be sold unto thee and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him or her go free from thee. And when thou sendest them out free from thee, thou shalt not let them go away empty. Thou shalt furnish them liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto them." And as I always say, God had a great concern for the slave. And he did not intend that a person would be labeled or held in slavery in perpetuity, and so that slavery would become, as a slave would become, as it were, a category of human being. No, God never intended it that way. And matter of fact, God never intended that slavery should last any more upon any one individual. As you see, look in the Bible, it's there, than 7 years. Thereafter, thou wert to help that sister or that brother back up on their feet. You wasn't to send them off. You was not to put them off the property with a bottle of water and a whole lot of thank you. You sure did a good job and all that kind of thing. No. The Bible said you were to furnish them liberally out of thy flock. That means some sheep or something, oxen or camels. You just can't send them away from hungry. Yes, because the sheep would provide wool and would provide milk, and along the way, so they would have something to start life off again with. Remember, they were in an agrarian culture, an agricultural setting, a pastoral setting. And so those things were of great import in one's sense of worth, sense of self-esteem. And of course, if one had a donkey to ride on, or a mule as we call it, well, of course, the donkey is a cross between a mule and a horse. But if a mule is a cross between a donkey and a horse. But if you had a donkey, as it were, then you had something to take the load off of your feet, you know. And so God was concerned that the slave would be helped on his way. He would get some form of remuneration for all of his years of hard work and labor in benefiting his slaveholder. He had sold himself into slavery, and And now that he had fulfilled his time, and he was coming out, or she was coming out, they were not going to go away just empty-handed, like the formerly enslaved were forced to do here in the United States following the Emancipation Proclamation, and even more so growing out of the end of the Civil War. What you going to do? You got to give us a person something. That's why General Sherman gave them the people down there in the Carolinas 40 acres and a view. That was equitable at that time. That was equitable because they could farm the land for themselves. It was 40 acres was considered a small farm, and then of course you needed a mule to pull that plow, and that would help a person to get started. But when Andrew Johnson became president, he rescinded all of those orders and all of those executive orders. He would have rescinded the Emancipation Proclamation had it been in his power to do so. But thank God it was not. But he did everything he could to reassert a worse form of peonage or slavery, as you may choose to call it, by re-empowering the former slave owners and former slave holders, by allowing them to resume their positions in the Congress and in the local political structures there all across the South. A man, I think his last name is Dawes, has written a book, very good book, very, it's not very long or anything, but it has a great deal of wonderful observations based on the determinants of health. And his theory is that it's not just the social determinants of health, but it is always the political determinants that determine what the social determinants of health are going to be. In other words, your politician, your president, your school board member, your school board president, or the persons who are in a position of elected position of authority have a great impact on the price of medicine, at the price of shoeshine material, shoeshine paste. How much did it cost to buy a little can of shoe polish? Or how much does it cost to buy a bottle of water? Those prices are impacted, and the availability of those things is impacted by the politicians. And I mention those things because those things affect one's health. Because what you spend for shoe polish and what you spend for water is going to affect what you can do with it, or what you can make with it. If you can't afford a bottle of water because it is too high, then of course you're going to suffer a health condition called thirst, which is overly simplistic, but it goes to prove the point that prices in your neighborhood are determined by what politician you put in office, because that politician influences the bureaus and the commissions and the boards and the chambers of commerce and all of that retinue of unelected politicians who has power to set those prices. And so we have to make ourselves politically aware and become politically engaged in our local politics, because those local politics determine how much I'm going to have to spend on a loaf of bread, even though I don't eat that much bread. But look how much it costs me if I want to eat healthy, if I want to eat vegetable. Why, them vegetables done went up. I look in my basket, I ain't got nothing but vegetables, and that lady gave me a price, almost $50, and I ain't got nothing but some vegetables? Huh? Who did that? Why, the politicians did that. The politicians who set the prices that the farmer got paid for his crop determined how much I was going to pay when I went to purchase that product in the store. Is that right? The politician who set the requirements for the farmer to get the loan to buy the farm equipment and to buy the seeds and to pay to plant the crop and to care for that crop until harvest time comes, God willing. You know, it's a very iffy business bringing in a crop. You can have a good year or a bad year. And if the farmers that didn't get their money in a timely fashion from the Farm Commission, the FMHA, which was the farmers' co-ops and all like that, if those commissions were occupied, the seats of those commissions were filled by people that didn't like the farmer, that particular farmer, or just wanted to hoard that money for as fewer farmers as they could, because the fewer farmers that get the funding, that means that the other farmers would stand closer to foreclosure, because every year that they don't get a crop or bring in a crop is another year that they get closer to filing for bankruptcy or foreclosure, and they stand in the jeopardy of losing their farm. And so if the Farm Commission plays games with the funding which they got from the federal government, which is what the Farm Commissions did, because most of the Farm Commission was staffed at people by white people, so-called white people as they call themselves. The funds came from Washington. The commission had the fund, but they didn't give the funds out in a timely manner and not in sufficient amounts in order to enable the poor farmer to get the crop in the field in time and get it harvested in time and get it to market in time. So then there were less farmers bringing their goods to market, which means that the price at the market that you go shop at went up, because there were fewer and fewer of a supply of products to buy. I know I've taken a long time to talk about goods and services, supply and demand, but all of that has a political component. And so the political determinants of health are very, very vital, because what you pay for what you can eat is going to affect your health, because if you've eaten all of this fried food and fast food, as they say, it's going to cause your health to be impacted. One is most susceptible to the afflictions called diabetes or hypertension. And once you get diabetes or hypertension, you're most susceptible to a lot of other things, because once you get to a certain age, eyes start getting cataracts, and if you got diabetes, it's going to complicate when the doctors can remove those cataracts, and all of that. Like I said, those are just simple, easily recognizable examples of how politics influences your health care. And then if your hospital is not sufficient, if you live over here in Inglewood and you're going to go to Centinela, well, the best hospital is out in Torrance. You can get to Torrance Memorial or get over to Little Company of Mary. But they're going to charge you $1,000 to take you from around the corner to Centinela Hospital. That's in an ambulance, in the red ambulance from the fire department. They will not take you to Torrance. They will not take you to Little Company of Mary, because that's out of that area. You're going to have to get a private ambulance to come pick you up and convey you to Torrance Memorial or Little Company of Mary, where you would have a better chance, where if the emergency room is less crowded, and your care that you receive would be much quicker and much better. But all of those, that would cost you a trip of $3,000 from Hardy and 11th Avenue to Little Company of Mary or to Torrance Memorial. Who fixed those prices? Well, the politicians fixed those prices. Who has to pay those prices? Well, if you can't get Medicare to reimburse, or your insurance will not reimburse, that money's going to come out your pocket. But somebody's going to have to pay for that trip. And if you don't get to those good hospitals, you have a higher likelihood of your increasing morbidity, or a greater danger of your what? Imminent mortality. And all of those things are because of politics. Politics is at the root of why it costs $3,000 to get an ambulance ride from Hardy and 11th Avenue to Torrance Memorial. My neighbor lived on the corner from my house, and he died because the paramedics got there to his house in time. The fire department got there to his house in time. But his family said, well, he'll get better care if you can get him to Torrance. And naturally, the EMT said, we can only take him right here to Centinela. And so they had to get another ambulance and to come and pick him up and spend that $3,000 to take him out there. And either because of complications or because of the length of time that it took to make the switch and travel the distance, then of course the poor man expired. All of those have a political component, my friends. You need to consider being active in politics, being aware, and taking a voice in choosing who your politicians are. Right here, we just finished a recall election in which Gavin Newsom survived. And had he not survived, the closest challenger would have been a very conservative, ultra-conservative by the name of Larry Elder, who just happens to be black, like me, or considered ostensibly black. But Gavin Newsom, of course, was successful in retaining his seat. And Gavin haven't done everything that like he ought to be doing, but he certainly was far better than this other fella was going to be, because that fella was going to roll back the vaccine mandates, roll back the mask mandates, and everything, in other words, that followed the Trump policy. He was going to, of course, enact that here in the state of California had he become governor. Fortunately, he did not. Thank God he did not. But you see the value of voting. And so I encourage all of us to consider what the politicians have to do with your health. Because when you're laying down on that bed looking up, it's too late to think about the fact that I'm here because some politician has raised the price so high that I can't afford the treatment. That's too late. And so as we get ready to wrap up, I see it's almost 4:30 here, and we had hoped to talk about Shelby County v. Holder, but we'll get to that in another broadcast. But continue to be vigilant, keep yourself engaged, keep yourself involved in your community and all around, because your voice and your vote and your energy is needed. All right? God bless you. And to my brothers and my sisters who are laboring at these thankless jobs, at least they're beginning to pay $15 an hour. I see where I think Amazon is going to pay $18 an hour. But of course, the cost of living is now at $30, $35 an hour. And so you're still not getting paid what you need to get paid. And you've got to continue to press, but thank God, at least we're getting something better. But we must always admonish you to continue to develop your mind, develop your skill, so that you can do something else. Because if they don't want to pay you, why are you working for them? Thank you, Doc. We're out of here.